Hey, what's going on? It's Joey Myers from the Hitting Performance Lab, and in this video we're going to talk about a Pete Alonso swing analysis where we will look at the different principles in the Catapult Loading System, which is building more consistent power. We will look at principles in pitch plane domination, which is hitting more line drives, and possibly a couple principles in reaction time mastery. So before we get into the actual analysis, swing analysis, I wanted to just cover a couple quick things at fangraphs.com just about Pete Alonso. You can see he's a big dude, 6'3", 245 pounds. Not typically an analysis that I do. I like to do kind of focus on the smaller hitters, the smaller sluggers. But that is definitely worth noting. This is his rookie season, by the way, 2019. And one other thing I wanted to draw your attention to here, 2019, are these numbers, which over here is ground balls per fly ball. Line drive percentage is at 18%, which is a little bit below average. I think average is about 20% line drive. Ground ball rate is below average. The average is usually 44% or so, league average. So he's got a below average ground ball percentage. His fly ball percentage is above average. It is 41.5. This is probably something that could help get his average up a little bit, his batting average, to hit, maybe get more line drives in here, mix in some more line drives. The average here is 37% fly ball percentage, league average. But you can see those fly balls that he's hitting, he's getting a big chunk that are going out, home run to fly ball ratio. But it looks like just from looking at the numbers that probably there's a little bit more of an arc to his swing, and him matching the plane a little bit better would cause the line drive rate to go up a little bit and the fly ball rate to go down. He's already above average or below average on the ground ball rate. So let's take a look at his swing and some of these principles that I mentioned earlier. We're going to start with the Catapult Loading System principles. We'll just go over a few here. There's about 6. So if you take a look, what's interesting at this frame, so this ball, just to give you context, this ball is an 87 mile an hour slider, it looks like, that missed in and up, which is not good from the pitcher's point of view, because the slower stuff, or the breaking stuff, that tends to miss up, speeds up. So if this pitcher, and I don't know how this guy throws, I haven't done any analysis on his pitch sequencing or anything like that, but if you're locating your fast stuff down, it tends to slow things down. And if you locate your slow stuff up, it tends to speed things up. So this would blur the lines between a fastball slowing down lower in the zone, being located lower in the zone, versus a slower thing located up in the zone, appearing faster, would kind of blur the lines, and timing there would make it easier for Mr. Pete Alonso in the swing analysis to crush this ball. But the first thing that is pretty apparent is you can see by his stride, you can see the rounded back, or what we call the hollow position. This is a posterior pelvic tilt. If you imagine the pelvis is a bowl of water, and if you posteriorly tilt the pelvis, you're spilling water on your heels. If you anteriorly tilt your pelvis, you're spilling water on your toes. So he's spilling water on his heels, very eerily similar to Mr. Hunter Pence, which was with the Giants. He is still doing this with the Rangers, but you can see this rounded back, taking the curve out of the lower back. I see a lot of swings out there on the hitting Twitters where they're doing the opposite of this, and they're arching their back going into turns, and they're basically wearing a hole in their back, grinding the vertebrae in there, taking all the cushioning out of there. But these two swings are very, very healthy swings, very, very safe swings. When we take the curve out of the lower back and we go into a rotational movement, you're going to have spacing between the vertebrae and the vertebra, however you want to say it. And you're going to have a safe rotational movement in the lower lumbar area of the swing. So let's get back to Mr. Pete Alonso and swing analysis. So you can see this kind of hollow position of the lower back as he turns, makes it very safe in the turn. Another big one is showing numbers. You can see Pete Alonso already, and just so you know that the camera angles here are typically more biased towards righties, or more the camera is more off center towards left field, but center, but a little bit more off towards left. So righties, when you look at righties, you might see numbers maybe that typically from a straight on view, like the pitcher's view, he may not be able to see the numbers here. but you can see probably he's a little bit more straight on here, and you can kind of barely make out the 2 in the front. Can't really see the last number there, and you kind of make out his last name. But as he gets into his turn, you can see him really showing both the 2 and the 0, and you can see kind of his nameplate all the way across. But at landing, you can see that happening, and you can see the pelvis after it's been loaded. The upper half has been loaded, the shoulders have been loaded, showing the numbers. You'll see the pelvis will start to open, and the lower half will start to open before the shoulders start to open. So that is that what some people maybe call separation, we call it, or X factor, however you want to call it. You see the pelvis opening. It's not the pelvis that's moving everything. It is preloaded. His torso is preloaded, and maybe reflective of the 53 homers he hit this year to break Aaron Judge's single season rookie record of homers. Hit 53 homers and 30 triples. Hello, he hit like 2 triples. He hit 30 doubles. Not bad for a first year rookie. But you can see this is where a majority of power comes from, is the spinal engine and springy fascia. It doesn't come from some kind of forearm move or barrel move early on. It comes from the torso. The torso is the engine. So preloading that engine by showing numbers, you're going to see quite a bit of power. Now, a couple things you'll see kind of at the end here. You'll see him, you see that back elbow peeking out here. Some call this a scap row, some call it a scap pinch. I call it just hiding the hands from the pitcher. He is not, I already know, we'll look at another angle of this in the pitch playing domination stuff, but he is not locking his front arm out. That would actually help with getting him to get into that scap row or that scap pinch. He's just kind of peeking the elbow out. He's definitely not loading the scap in the back. It doesn't look like it, at least from this angle. So that might be something that he can get a little bit better at, but he's definitely showing his numbers. That is a huge missile when it comes to consistent power. So showing his numbers pretty well. We can't really tell from this view per se that he's got down shoulders, but I can tell you, I looked at the chest view, which we'll look at in a second. He doesn't have a down shoulder angle, so that's definitely something else that he can move into, possibly could help with the line drives. But definitely showing numbers, good hunch position, good hollow position, and I think that's about it from this view. Let's take a look at his chest view. Actually, before we get there, let's take a look at kind of a close-up. You can see it really clear here. You can see those numbers being shown. You can see that hollow position, that curve being taken out of his lower back. You can definitely see that elbow's somewhat peeking out, but and that scap may be loading just a little bit back there, just enough, maybe a little bit, but it doesn't look like some of the hitters that do it really well. So that's that view. Let's get back to the chest view. So let's take a look and see if his shoulders are down at landing. So you can see at landing right here, about right there. So he's definitely got level shoulders. He's not down shoulders. We like to see a slight downward angle here, get a side bend, that head over foot technique that David Weck talks about at weckmethod.com when it comes to sprint mechanics and walking mechanics, locomotion, basic locomotion deals. You can see that front arm shape as he gets to landing here. He's got definitely a slight bend in it. And with this pitch, this slider coming in on him a little bit, 87 in, it's actually appearing more in that up and in part, like a 93 to him. So he's pulling in. You'll see him bend quite a bit here in these frames to barrel this ball up. I like to see him be able to manipulate this barrel a little bit better and not bend so much to get inside this ball. He can bend a little bit. We want our hitters, if they need to bend just a tad, they don't want to give up a lot. When it comes to Mike Trout, low and away, his average ball exit speed is 101, which equates to about 404 feet of distance hit at the right angle. And his up and in arm shape, and that's with the long arm shape down and away, so he's basically locked out at impact down and away. Up and in with the chicken wing, almost a 90-degree bend pretty much in Mike Trout's front arm at impact on an up and in pitch. His average ball exit speed is 80 miles an hour. So it's a 21 mile an hour difference, about an 84 foot difference. That is giving up way too much. So what we do is, instead of manipulating, and that's equating to a 320 feet of distance, and in any ballpark, unless you got a weird short porch, and that's not going out anywhere. 404 is pretty much going out in any ballpark, unless you got some weird San Francisco Giants 420 foot right center field gap. But 404 is pretty much going out in all ballparks. So I'd rather pitch to that softer spot. So that's why with our hitters, we don't manipulate the front arm shape as much. We manipulate when the barrel drops. So you can see here, he's pulling in, one, and number two, he's definitely not deep barrel dumping like a lot of coaches out there will teach, whether the ball's inside, middle, or away. They deep barrel dump where they're trying to knock this catcher's glove off. That is okay away and down, but it is not okay to deep barrel dump in and up. And as you see here, this is the high level pattern. The real high level pattern is we want to see that barrel, we call it the belly button catcher's glove, and now we're kind of bleeding into the pitch plane domination stuff. But you got a belly button catcher's glove here in line with the hitter's belly button. We got a back foot catcher's glove, which is more for pitches middle. And then you have the real catcher's glove right here for pitches down and away. The belly button one obviously is for in, a third in of the plate and a third up of the zone. So you're seeing him knock off the belly button catcher's glove to get to this pitch. So when we talk about manipulating the barrel, this is what we want to do, and we want to try and keep that front arm shape fairly straight, if not slight bend in it, where we're not giving up 84 feet of distance, but maybe we're giving up 4 to 16 feet of distance. Not as big of a deal as 84. But you're seeing high level pattern inside or up. You will see these hitters doing this with the barrel. Definitely not dumping back here, or even sometimes you'll see them dump here in line with the back foot, but they'll be hitting that ball slightly in on the sweet spot. They can still hit balls out like that, but it's not going to be optimized. It's not going to be optimized as if they were to balls on the middle third or the inner third part of the plate or upper third part of the zone. If they're hitting the belly button catcher's glove, they're going to optimize that distance on that ball. So that is a big one on the pitch plane domination, when contact happens based on pitch depth, or when the barrel enters the zone on pitch depth. A couple things. Oh, one other thing on Catapult Loading System is head positioning, being stable with the head. We're not seeing him really going chin into his chest. You see the chin kind of going down a little bit, but it looks pretty soft there. You're not seeing the rear ear rolling or the head rolling into the back shoulder. Not seeing that. We see that on young hitters a lot, that and the chin in the chest. Or we don't see the bill of the hat going up like Pete Alonso in this swing analysis is going up towards the sky. He's got a pretty stable head as he's turning. Those are some of the issues and challenges we see with the young hitters when it comes to stability with the head. Okay, pitch plane domination. So one of the big things with my hitters that I like to make sure they're doing is they're creating space between their feet. So you see Alonso with the initial start of his swing, he's in a good athletic position. This is a good kind of cornerback or tailback of a football in football, trying to cover a quarterback or trying to run, get the ball and run a running back route or tailback route, whatever. You're seeing these kind of feet just slightly wider than shoulder width at the start, which is good. You can see this back toes turn slightly in, which is kind of cool. I used to teach this a lot, actually. And what you would do is you would actually feel like you're screwing your ankle into your foot. As for Pete Alonso here, he'd be screwing it in clockwise. Okay, so you kind of create this back hip tension or hip torque back here. You feel it in the knee too. And it kind of looks like that's what he's doing. Create a little bit more of a stable base to move from on the backside, because as you can see, he does pretty good. He's got a lot of forward momentum here, controlled forward momentum. He's not just blatantly and chaotically moving to that front side. He's kind of riding, Matt Noakes calls it riding out the back hip, ride and stride. I call it the float and fall. So he's doing pretty good about reading the pitch and then not committing too early. But he's definitely getting some distance. I mean, you can see where his foot starts here, and you can see where his foot ends. Pretty big stride. His ankles here. You can see how big that is. You can also see a no-no of some of these coaches. They talk about keeping the back foot into the ground. You can see there's a pretty big, let's erase these ones, pretty big change from where the back toe starts and where the back toe ends up. And he's a skipper. I don't think he's a scissorer, but he just kind of skips. And you can see the distance between his feet during the swing. So he's got distance between his feet. This is huge. A lot of my hitters, especially if we start to work on skipping and intention, things like that, they skip too much. So when there's not enough distance between the feet, the legs and the knees act like adjusters. So we can adjust by, you see Bellinger do it a lot on pitches down in the zone. He doesn't lock this knee out like Pete Alonso's doing in the swing analysis. You'll see Bellinger actually have his knee bent. Now this pitch was up in the zone, so you'll see Bellinger, just like Pete Alonso, you'll see him lock the knee out too. But lower in the zone, you'll see Bellinger will actually bend his front knee and never get it to straight. The legs aren't where power comes from. The lower half of the body is 20 to 30% of power. The rest of that is found in the spinal engine, which is about 70 to 80% of the power. So the legs aren't supplying power and ground reaction forces. Everybody thinks ground reaction forces, that's where all the power comes from. It doesn't. Not even a majority of the power comes from ground reaction forces. However, we can use our legs and knees to adjust to timing of the pitch. We can lean into the legs or cushion, like Jamie Savalas calls in positional hitting, the cushion or double cushion, where we bend the knee a little bit more to buy ourselves some time. We can bend the knee to get down to pitches down in the zone. We can use the legs to buy time. We can use the legs for directional force to set our direction of where we need to go, so we're not over rotating all the time. But we want to have, and we can control our line drive rates. So if our legs get too close, typically what happens is the hitter gets too tall. When they get too tall, they tend to hit the ball on the ground, unless they try and compensate and try and get their hands and uppercut the ball into the air, which is unnatural to do, and we don't want them to do that. So what we do is we build distance between their feet, combination of either, if they aren't skipping, get in the skip or scissor, or get to the toe at least. But if they're not skipping at all and they're squishing the bug, then what we'll do is we'll get them to skip or scissor, and then eventually we can get them to maybe get into the toe and doing the return. In a return, or we get them to skip, so that kind of gets them to get their body weight, transfer their body weight, or 150% of their body weight into the ball. The other thing we do is we get them to lengthen their stride a little bit, and that can create some distance between the feet, but we want to have distance between the feet for sure. Again, helps with adjustment, helps with adjusting to timing, adjusting to pitch height, and adjusting our line drive rates. The other thing we already talked about was the belly button, catcher's glove versus the back foot one versus the real one. So inner third part of the plate, we want to hit the belly button, catcher's glove, which Mr. Pete Alonso is doing right here on this pitch, because it's, again, a 87-mile-an-hour slider in, and up and in almost. And he's kind of cutting the corner, cutting his swing a little short, being more compact. And with hitters that have swings like this, that are default like this, so if the pitch is away, if it's middle, if it's in, their swing is like this all the time, we got to get them to learn the deep barrel dump. And a great hitting aid for that is the rope bat. Go to the startinglineup.store.com and the rope bat. That is a great one to get really, really compact, tight hitters on all pitch depths to get a deeper barrel path when it comes to a third away or a third middle of the plate. That it gets them to feel that. And then again, you do the opposite for those that have the deep barrel dump on all pitch depths. Then we get them to feel fighting the barrel, don't letting it drop, all the bad cues that all of you probably have been taught out there, swing down on the ball, barrel above your hands. All those cues are actually really good for hitters that are casting their barrel early, have long swings. Long swing isn't based on the front arm shape, it's based on when the barrel launches. Again, this is a later launch of the barrel. When they launch it early, way too early, and they're doing it on every pitch depth, then we got to get them to feel what it feels like to get to an inside pitch correctly. So pitch plane domination, pretty good, but based on his numbers, where he's a little bit below average on line drive percentage, above average on his fly ball percentage, we probably can adjust his possibly his arm, front arm shape here. We can adjust, get him some downhill shoulders. He looks like his barrel path is really good distance between his feet. There's really not much that we can do here to really help, but we can optimize. Every hitter can be optimized. I don't care how good they are or what level they're at, they can all be optimized, whether it's one thing or whether it's a couple things. Typically for really good hitters, it's only one or two things that we can do, and it might not be a huge difference in their numbers, but it would make a difference. It could be the difference between them making the All-Star game and not making the All-Star game. So there you have it. In this Pete Alonso swing analysis video, make sure that we're swinging smarter by moving better. And before I let you go,
the Hitting Performance Lab wants to know, did you know repeatable hitting power does not start in the hips? Have you heard the expressions, load and explode the hips? Power comes from the hips. Well, we created a free video revealing the results of a scientific study that will show you how we added 48 feet of batted ball distance instantly. And it's not all about the hips. Click here now to get the video while it's still free.